Hey Jeff, thanks for joining me.
Hey, Steve. Thanks for having me again.
Good to have you. We're talking about some outbound migration in Florida. A few markets are seeing some weakness, and that's after a lot of strength in the state where a lot of newcomers moved in. Maybe they moved in before they got a taste of some of the storms, and they certainly moved in before they got a taste of insurance rates in the state skyrocketing a bit. We're principally, I think, talking about areas like Tampa, Orlando. Some of the kind of more kind of maybe Gulf Coast areas where we're seeing inventories for single family homes and condominiums go up. Some of your thoughts. You know the Florida market pretty well. Certainly not seeing that kind of weakness in Miami, but some areas we are seeing some weakness now.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's a hard reality people have to come to grips with is, it is the sunshine state, but it's not always sunny. Some of that shade, I guess, comes from having to deal with hurricanes, having to deal with not just the hurricane itself, because it's not always that big of a deal, but it's the cost of preparation. Some people don't have shutters, so then you're talking about buying plywood. Plywood costs have gone up. Having to have the right screws, but all sorts of stuff. But then you have the cost of the after effects of storms and having to repair windows, having to repair potential storm surge damage, from water intrusion, and then added to it just roofs, whatever it is, that's something that becomes kind of a blight for people moving in, or at least overwhelming for people moving in, and not something people want to have to deal with. But I think the reality is it's kind of hard to live anywhere. There's storms, as you can see in Western North Carolina, Tennessee, all those areas, they can kind of go anywhere. So, if you move to the South, you got to be prepared.
Yeah, and some data here. Insurance premiums in Florida are up as much as 400% over the past 5 years in certain areas.
Oh,
It's up high in a lot of parts of the country, but that's really hurting some folks, especially for folks who stretched their budgets to buy a house. Tampa, Orlando, you're seeing inventory for single family homes and condominiums, those areas up more than 50% in August from the same month the previous year. About half the homes listed for sale in Tampa experienced price reductions as of September 9th. That's the third highest share of U.S. major metropolitan areas. So for some of those areas, it really does seem insurance costs, maybe some folks weren't prepared for what they were signing up for in the climate. But yeah, this for some markets really does seem to be a thing.
look, I mean, the reality is, I mean, even my own house, I went from, I think it was $2,300 a year to almost $5,500 a year. I mean, just in 1 year's time. So, it happens, And just, the irony is, I put a new roof on my house, getting the windows done, and even doing that's not going to bring it back down to $2,200. That it'll never get back down there again. So, once it goes up, and there's no real opportunity to really bring it down except for other companies coming in. And that becomes more of a insurance question and financial responsibility of not distributing all the money they make and keeping it in their coffers to cover costs that they agreed to cover.
Yeah, I think it wouldn't surprise us in some of these markets to see weakness and even price declines given all that inventory. On the other
For
side,
sure.
for us as investors, it does kind of add to our thesis of there's some opportunities in multifamily as affordability for buying houses continues to be a real challenge for homeowners. A lot of homeowners are going to continue to be put in the place where they really need to rent instead of buy, because it's not just buying the house; it's also, as you painted, all the maintenance costs and these escalating insurance costs. That yeah, Florida's about the worst, but it's a real issue around the country.
Yeah, I mean, look, the reality is it's interesting. People talk about, well, how can these apartment owners keep increasing the costs, et cetera, and they're making it so people can't rent them. Well, look, the reality is these properties are owned by investors, and they've got to be able to support themselves, and those costs don't just apply to the single family housing costs, where those you've got those rising prices, or in some cases now stagnating or even decreasing prices. But the cost of the rental rates continue to go up because of things like the insurance costs. So, you know, look, I think it makes, like you said, like these investments in multifamily and some of them a viable reality because, you know, people can't continue to, you know, to pay these increasing costs or even stagnating costs, whatever you want to call it in Florida and some of these other areas, plus maintenance, plus insurance, plus taxes, plus, you know, goes on and becomes a real reason why people continue to rent.
Okay, thanks for the insights, Jeff. If you enjoyed the video, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, and visit our website, selectfincap.com, and register to get on our newsletter and be able to check out exclusive real estate investment opportunities in the commercial space, possibly some multifamily investment opportunities for folks that can't afford these insurance costs and are going to have to rent instead of buy. Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Thanks, Steve.